the Navigating Sisterhood podcast, where we unpack all things friendship. I'm Allison.
And I am Mia.
We know adulting can make it hard to stay connected. So we're here to help you navigate the sometimes challenging but always rewarding world of friendships. So share this with a friend and let's dive.
Hey, friend.
Hey friend, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I know I wanted to do some small talk. I always want us to start off with just a little bit of small talk because you and I both be deep waters, honey. And we could go deep really quick.
Yeah.
We
Really
enjoy
quickly.
we enjoy it there. But yeah, let's just open up with some small talk. And why not start with something that is a win? Sis got a new job and stuff. Tell the people.
I do. I have a new job. I left the company that I've been with since 2015, and it was a big jump for me because yeah, I mean you know how it is. You get comfortable and you figure out how to navigate the space, and you get it's like okay, I know this place. Like I know how to maneuver, and I have been with three different divisions within the company: Salt Lake City, Nashville, and Colorado Springs. And I'm like, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. But I made a move and it's been it's been really good. And this time was different in that I wasn't searching for a job out of like desperation or need. It was like, let me just see what's out there. And I'm not sure what's ahead, or what the future looks like for this company. So let me just put some feelers out. Right? And with this company, I just threw something out. When they asked me my salary range, I threw something out. Ridiculous. And they gave it to me. So I had been excited, right? Like since I got the offer, I'm like, dang, like this is incredible. The Lord is so kind and amazing, all the things. But that thing really started to hit different. You know what I'm saying? When I started the job and when, I'm a couple weeks in, I'm like, oh my God, like I just had this moment of thinking back, when I would pray to the Lord, like, oh, Lord, if I just got this much more, I'd be, more comfortable, right? Or if I just, if you could just, what I'm saying, let this happen, I would just have a little bit more room because, yes, like, the Lord has blessed me tremendously and I've been favored, like, I'm so grateful to God because I see what people are saying in regards to the job market and cost of living and all the things, right? And I'm grateful that I've been insulated in a way thus far from the struggles of navigating the workforce. I have just been favored. I'm grateful for that. But I'm like, Lord, I just want to be like comfortable, like not always like just enough. I just want to be a little bit more comfortable. And over the years, increase has happened, right? Promotions have come, but every single time something would eat it up. You know what I mean? Whether it was the raise in rent or I would move to a different city and the cost of living there was greater. So it's like, sure, I got more money, but the cost of living is so high that I don't see it or enjoy it. So this has been the first time where there has been increase happening and my cost of living has remained so I can actually see it. And also around this time, I came across a post about some scriptures. I said, oh, you know what? Let me go bookmark those scriptures for just quick reference, that wasn't necessarily related to this. But one of the scriptures in there was Deuteronomy 8, I think 8 and 18 or something like that, which prompted me to read the whole chapter because I'm saying I always want to make sure I'm understanding things in context, so you read ahead and you read ahead of the scripture and behind the scripture, like what are they really talking about? I don't want to be that person just saying stuff and it don't really make sense. So I read the whole chapter. And before I knew it, I was on my living room floor just crying out loud because it just all hit me and just this wave of gratitude came and I was just thinking about everything that has happened that has led me here. You know what I mean? Like all of the valleys, all of the trials, and even just considering like the college I went to, right, which set me up for the degree I got, which set me up for the internship I got in Salt Lake City, which set me up for, to work at the company I work, which like all of the, like every little moment in my life that I didn't necessarily appreciate in that time it all led to this, right? Then I started thinking about the people who were involved, you know what I'm saying? Like in each of those moments, right? The person who took a chance on a recent graduate from Alabama, the person who, got helped me get a small scholarship, which was very tiny, but $1 is more than $0. Amen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm thinking about that. And I'm thinking about my parents who sacrificed and put us through school and never, made us work. Like y'all go to school, focus on that. That's that. Y'all are good. We good. I got y'all, right? Like all of these moments. And I'm like, God, I just thank you for my parents, for the people who took a chance on me, for all of it. I just thank you because none of it is by happenstance. None of it is a coincidence. And I'm just like, Lord, I thank you. Because even in those, it just hit different. The mountaintops of life, right? The highs of life, they hit different when you went through some lows, you know?
Hey, I could write a book.
By the way, right there. But seriously, and I want to read a little piece of the scripture because Deuteronomy 8:2, this is where I started. And it says, and you shall remember always all the ways which the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, so that he might humble you and test you to know what was in your heart, whether you could keep his commandments or not. He humbled you and allowed you to be hungry and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, so that he might make you understand that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Lord. Your clothing did not wear out on you, nor did your feet swell these 40 years. Therefore, know in your heart that the Lord your God, disciplines and instructs you just as a man disciplines and instructs his son. Then, like, down to verse 7, for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs flowing forth in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat bread without shortage, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron and out of whose hills you can dig copper. When you have eaten and are satisfied, then you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land which he has given you. Beware that you do not forget the Lord your God by failing to keep his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I am commanding you today. Otherwise, when you have eaten and are satisfied and have built good houses and lived in them, and when your herds and flocks multiply, and your silver and gold multiply, and all that you have increases,
You go.
then your heart will become lifted up, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you from the land of Egypt out of the house of slavery. He led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground where there was no water. It was he who brought water for you out of the flinty rock. He fed you manna in the wilderness, which your fathers did not know, so that he might humble you. And then in verse 18 it says, "But you shall remember with profound respect the Lord your God, for it is He who is giving you power to make wealth, that He may confirm His covenant which He swore to your fathers, as it is this day." Man, when I tell you, I was on the floor.
And you trying to put us all on the floor with you. I see what you're really trying to hold it together.
No, for real, like it was just like, Lord, I won't forget. Like I vowed not to forget,
Yeah,
because there was some days,
maybe.
man, there was some days. And yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. I really, really am for all the things. Because
Yeah.
the pain of it all, the lows of it all, it makes this moment really, really special.
Well,
So yeah,
congratulations, friend. You deserve it. And I'm happy to be here on this journey with you.
thank you. And just thank you for like, like I don't have this testimony, but like people be like, you can't share your wins with everybody. You can't share
Yeah.
good news. You gotta protect it. Let me tell you something. I'm grateful that I can share all my wins with you because you be like, yes, let's go. It's so comforting to know that I don't have to like walk on eggshells and like have to sugarcoat or tailor the way I communicate what's happening with me. I really, really appreciate that because it is like a major breakthrough for me. So thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for celebrating with me.
Always, always. And you the same. You the same. I want to transition us though. I want to transition us into a big talk. So funny that that's our small talk, just a little light, just a little sprinkle. Got a whole word, a sermon, maybe a teardrop, but bring it back. We're back.
Hilarious.
But one of the things that have, I don't want to say connected us, but one of the things that we have had in common is some of the childhood trauma, that we've gone through, insert here.
Yeah.
And specifically mother wound healing. And both of us have gone through a journey. And I just wanted to kind of talk through that because I know it is something big for a lot of people, whether
Yeah.
we acknowledge it or not. And I want to kind of share because I know this has been a part of basically your ministry. As you have gone through your journey, God has given you a voice in this space and language for this space that is beautiful and healing. And so, definitely, check in with you on that. But today, I just want to talk specifically about our journeys. And what's funny is, I didn't know I had a mother wound.
Neither did I.
I didn't know. And so I know I had some issues, right? But it didn't go beyond that. It didn't go beyond that. And actually, I didn't know I had a mother wound until you went through your journey and called
Mm.
it mother wound and defined it. And I was like, now wait, now what is that again? So, because my mom and I had gone through phases already before I even met you, right? That I knew. And one of the biggest shifts happened for me right out of college. I remember my mom instilled a whole bunch of principles, okay, in her children. One was we always gonna take care of mama. Okay. One was, family is important and we're always going to look out for each other. So when I got my big job, my big girl job after college, I had arrived, for my family. And so I remember going, getting my, first real paycheck and all that good stuff. And because of what I was taught, what I knew to be right, I'm going to give to my mom. Now, mind you, I'm 20, 22, sending home money every single month to my mom. Now, don't judge my mama, but sending money home every month, right? And then I remember it. Now, girl, I was a mess. Like coming out of college, we could have that conversation another time, but I had a whole lot of stuff I was going through. One is being that far away from home. So I went from college to Utah. So I went through a whole bunch of growing with that amount of distance, that amount of not speaking to her or family members and having that influence, incubation that you kind of
Yeah.
are in a kind of like a bubble of all this kind of like mindedness, and you don't have the distraction of college of just having a good time. And so I'm out here, a big girl, and I'm like, now, and I'm learning a lot of things, and I'm in a different environment. And one of the things I start learning about is getting out of debt. And I'm like, now I'm sending money home every month and I'm in so much debt. But it's so normal that we just be in debt and that's just how it is. And so I learned that actually we don't have to be. We get to decide. And one of those decisions for me was to no longer send money home every month.
Mm.
And my mom wrote me a letter because that's how she communicates, that tore my heart in shreds and hurt me. And I was disappointed. I was confused because in my mind, I was like, I can help you so much more if I'm not carrying you along the way. So let me get there and then let me get back. And so
Let
I
me
was,
get there.
so I'm like, this makes so much sense to me. So why is this letter of like disappointment in who I am? Why is this letter like you ain't my source anyway? Why is this letter filled with nastiness that I didn't understand, and it shifted our relationship forever. And there's been a pulling, ever since that moment. But even that moment, I never knew that was a mother wound. And
Yeah.
so when you and I like connected and you start going through what you were going through, and then God gave you language and called it a mother wound, it just made me be able to look back at moments and identify with that. Anyway, tell people about like what has your journey been like?
First of all, let's take a moment because that was heavy. Because like it's so real, it's so common,
Hmm.
but just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. It doesn't mean that it's the will of the Lord. It doesn't mean that it's what God intended for our families. And while there's something to be said about honoring our parents, and we can
Can,
get there.
can we pause there? Can we pause right there? Because I think what is wrapped up in both of our journeys is this religious um, jargon. And I'm going
Yeah.
to say jargon because of the way that it's used. And so then when you reject and or make a different decision, now you feel guilty not only from disappointment to your family and to the structure and to the ideology, but then also, and am I disappointing you, God? Because I'm not honoring. So yes, we have to unpack all of it.
All things though, right? Because yeah, sure, we honor, but to what you said, religion, especially high control religions, in which explains, our upbringing. I was raised Pentecostal. I think you were too.
Yes.
It only exacerbates the childhood wounds, right? Like parental wounds and religious trauma. There's an intersection there that just is just combustible, right? That combination is just like it's you don't even know how to pick it apart. It's like is it the religion? Is it the they oftentimes go hand in hand because of how our religion is even informing the way our parents parented us. You know what I mean? Like it's all interconnected, and yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, is what it is. And yet again, it's extremely common, but that doesn't mean it's normal. It doesn't mean that it's our obligation. And what we oftentimes get wrong, families of color, because I know this is true in brown families as well as black families, we, instead of having the focus to pay it forward, we are conditioned to pay it backwards. And it makes no sense. It
Absolutely.
makes no sense. And at the same time, we hear all this conversation about legacy, legacy, legacy. Well, where is room for legacy when people behind us expect and feel so entitled to what we have? Yes, I am grateful. I was just talking about, how grateful I am that every step of the way has created this moment, right? Like who I am today is because of all the decisions my parents made, right? The jobs they had that afforded us the lifestyle we had that afforded, the school I went to, which, you know what I'm saying? Like I appreciate that. And I get to show my respect and honor in so many ways. But this indebtedness and this obligation to give back is ridiculous. What also is honor is how we make sure the next generation is better off, right? There should be a pattern of progression, right? Like if my grandparents were poor and my parents grew up in poverty, but they made it out, the next generation should be a little bit better off. And, like every generation should be a little bit better off, right? But if we are committed to giving everything backwards and we don't have 529s for our kids, we don't have investments for our kids, no college funds, we got to have fish fries and GoFundMe's to bury our people, got to do all this stuff. Like this doesn't make sense. This is not the will of the Lord. And you know what's also honor is good stewardship.
Yeah.
We are commanded in the Bible to be good stewards of all that God has given us, right?
Yeah.
Of our entire being, and our money is a part of that. And girl, this thing, it really hits because I get that because of so many factors. Yes, we can talk about capitalism, racism, systemic oppression, and how all of these things inform the way our families are. I get all of that. I get all of that. But that aside, I understand that there's sometimes it's just the need, right? There's sometimes it's just the need for your kids to help you out. But 22 years old, you come out of school with student loans and you know what I'm saying, all the stuff, and literally just beginning your life, figuring stuff out. and it's so unfair. And it's so unfair because you literally wear this guilt and shame like can't. This isn't. This is. We're not talking about people who are like overflowing in abundance, right? And are withholding or just not generous or stingy. This folks just trying to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that obligation is so like man, it's not fair. It's not fair, and it's just extremely frustrating because I see this so much with not just my community, but the folks that I work with. In regards to this kind of stuff, it's so common. It's just like this is not the way the Lord intended. It's not.
I know you haven't got to your story yet, but like, since we're here, I do want to pause in the unfair thing, right? And the only reason I want to pause here is because I think it took therapy, it took years for me to understand how that expectation of a 22-year-old, even when I just mentioned it earlier, it like sat on me again, like,
Not just a 22-year-old, but also the youngest of your siblings. You're the baby girl.
I'm the baby girl.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that typically this behavior is happening to the oldest child. Is very prominent amongst eldest daughters or eldest children. Both of us are the baby girls in our
Yeah,
family.
baby girls. Only I'm the only girl in my family. So there are men, and we could talk about leadership and all that good stuff too. But there are three other men in my family, in my lineage, and so like this expectation that came for me. But I want to sit in the unfairness because it's real. And I don't think you are able to really wrap your mind around it being unfair when you've been conditioned all your entire life to believe this and to feel like this is the way we honor. And so to unlearn and undefine that and be able to still embrace and know that I am honoring in a different way, but it's just not that way. So anyway, I just wanted to sit in that because I do want people to hear, feel, and know that it is an unfair expectation. It is a burden and a responsibility that is misplaced, and you do not have to carry that.
Yeah, you don't. And what's also unfair is having to when you do come into the awareness that man, this is unfair, and then having to reconcile. But that's my mama though, because it's easy to talk about boundaries. It's easy to say, oh, you can say no. Right, I can say no because you did, right? You stopped sending it. But also now I've got to figure out how do I navigate this relationship with my mother,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like because the way I see her, maybe is there's a disconnect with how she sees me because I'm just her daughter. And even in that, girl, like girl,
I
okay,
know.
you gotta help me because
I know. I know. That's why I love talking about it with you. You be so passionate. I'm like, I know.
it's like I'm your child. I
Yeah.
did not ask to be here. You made a child, and again, back to unfairness. I recognize a lot of our parents didn't set out a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to have four children, and I want them to be 2 years apart, and this and that. A lot of us didn't plan to come from, what so many of us call broken homes or whatever. Like, our parents didn't plan these circumstances out, right? I understand that. However, at some point, a choice was made, a decision was made to bring life into this world. And that comes with responsibilities. And hey, and maybe for you that's up to 18, right? Or up to whatever. But a child is a child. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the fact that we come in here and it's like, well, I had no say, but now I got all these responsibilities. I got to take care of me and you. And that's a lot. And it's just not the way the Lord intended for our families to operate. Honor, absolutely. But this entitlement that generations prior have is so wild to me, girl. It's so wild. Because most of us, especially with us of black and brown families, we can't wait to like thank our parents in big, grandiose ways. Right? I can't wait for the day I get this to say, all right, how much I own this house. All right, then I got you. I can't wait for that day. I'm probably that day does come between me and my sister. One of us, whoever gets to it first, but we got you, right? I look forward to that out of my own generosity, not because you expect what? Because here's my thing, and I recognize that this is a very delicate conversation, but I'm talking to you right now. So, and you know my heart. They got their shot. They got their chance. Give me a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a chance.
Yeah.
You did what you did with what you had, and we appreciate how you navigated it. You did the best you could, and we appreciate that. Can I get a shot? Can I get a chance? Because one thing, and again, we let's insert what we know about systemic oppression and racial oppression here. But one thing about like European families, when their children graduate, from college, many times debt free, they have a house to come to, right? They get married, they have a house, no mortgage is paid for. Come
Yeah.
live here for a couple of years, stack your paper, and then do what you want to do. They've graduated college with no debt, maybe. And even if they do have debt, maybe it's minimal. They get to start a career, they have a house, no mortgage. You know what I'm saying? And they have a tribe around them, their family to help with this and that. Meanwhile, for us, it's like, get it out the mud. And us meaning just in general, like I'm around families, it's like, why?
Yeah.
And there's this thing about our families, girl. It's like they communicate, we want the next generation to be better off. But what is displayed to us is, I need you to struggle just like I did. And when you don't, I feel a way about that.
There's a lot to unpack on that one, sis. There's a lot to unpack on that.
Which one is it? Just give me a fair chance. You know what I'm saying? And furthermore, and this just perpetuates the wounding in general, because the wounding itself, it comes from us feeling, or having our love having strings to it. We didn't experience unconditional love, and this just perpetuates that. But you accept me with conditions. You love me with conditions. If I am a good daughter, and you get to define what that means, and you continue to move the goalposts,
Yeah.
right? So what
Or
is it?
or the moment that definition doesn't line up with my definition of what good is, then it's wrong.
Yes.
It becomes a right and wrong situation.
Which then communicates how it's communicated. It's not even like a right or wrong. It's like you are right or wrong.
Correct. Correct.
Not your behavior. It's you are right or wrong. You are good or bad,
Yes.
right? And because like for me, that's what it was. Like
So tell
I
your story. Tell your story.
so my which by the way, it's funny how you talked about coming into the awareness of your mother wound, because girl, I had not even heard the term mother wound until you start going to the church you went to in Atlanta, and someone prayed for you and was like telling you like they see you have a mother wound.
That
and I
is
rem- and I remember you telling me that, and I was like, listen, I'm like, but in my mind I was like, what's the I didn't know. I had never heard the terminology. My first time even being introduced to the terminology was through you. Now, granted, I went on and did my own thing, and it, became very real to me, and I became very aware of it. But my introduction to just the terminology was through you.
I did not know that. Okay. I didn't remember that. Wow.
Yeah. For me, I have a bit of a unique situation. It's not unique. It's just whatever. It's my story. I was raised upper middle class, two parent home, dual income home. Grew up where the people around us, they all thought we were rich. We were not rich, but people around us, they're like the perception was that they were very well off. And I say that to say, because of our economic privilege, I never felt any room or space to experience, process, or I didn't know how to process all of the neglect, all of the emotional neglect I experienced, and the emotional abandonment and rejection I experienced, because it's like, well, you have everything you need, right? We're told that you have a roof over your head, and not just a roof, you got a very nice roof. You know what I'm saying? You got a very nice roof, very nice room, you got your own room, you got your own bathroom, you got clothes on your back, you do whatever you want, you know what I'm saying? You got a mama who cook 2, 3 times a day. You know what I'm saying? You got hot food every day. Like, so it's like, what you got to complain about? And so I didn't. I just suffered in silence because I didn't even know this was a thing to complain about. I didn't know that there were other needs. I just knew what I felt. And I knew that I didn't have a great relationship with my mother. I just knew that. So, yeah, mine was different in that the financial provision was always there and it was there in abundance, but emotional presence, any sort of emotional needs or acceptance, that wasn't there. That wasn't there because again, I was raised in a high control religion, and the priority just wasn't. I was raised in a family where kids were like they just weren't valued the same. It's like they are an afterthought, or like your needs go on the back burner. Even though we all have the same needs, we come into this world with a set of needs, and they're all the same. We have basic needs, which is survival, which is of course shelter, safety. You know what I mean? But then I came to realize that emotional safety is a part of that too. Psychological safety is part of that too. And I just didn't have that. I just always had this feeling like I'm not wanted. Did not have the language for that, but I just always felt like I don't fit here. Like everyone seems to have a flow. I see how my other siblings are treated, and while they aren't like uh, beat me upside the head. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I did get whooped. Let's be clear, but I'm not. Like I'm not bruised up or like they didn't abandon me like and leave me. You know what I'm saying, to be adopted by another family, or I wasn't in a foster care system. Like there are very grand displays of abandonment and rejection that we can visualize, right? And it wasn't that for me, but yet and still in this two-parent home, I feel rejected. I just feel like I am such a burden and an inconvenience, and everything that I do is like, it's like, man, I just really don't fit here. So what that resulted in was me needing to perform. Like, well, if just who I am doesn't do it for you, maybe if I just like prove my worth. So I'm gonna make straight A's. I'm not gonna get in trouble. I'm not gonna cause a ruckus. The only time I got in trouble was if me and my sister were fighting, which was a regular occasion because along with parental wounds, come sibling wounds because typically there's some sort of triangulation, which is there's a golden child, there's a narcissistic parent, the golden child, the scapegoat, which is the black sheep. So we didn't have a good relationship. So I got in trouble a lot with my sister, and then I got in trouble because of boys, right? But other than that, like I wasn't, saying, acting up at school. No teachers was calling the house like saying, "Oh, she got in trouble for this and that." No, straight A student. Did what I had to do. But it was because it's like, again, looking back, I'm not thinking this as a child, but looking back, it's like I have to perform for love. Like I am praised and rewarded when I perform well.
But when did you come to that realization? Like,
Oh.
did you have what I'm trying to get from you is like, did you have a moment where you're like, I need to start unpacking and understanding these things? Even if it was unrelated, like what even took you
Yes,
down the path of, I need to explore this more of how I receive love or how I don't feel wanted or what have you?
yes, that happened when I started going to therapy in 2018, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. So I started going to therapy in 2018, and of course, you start peeling back the layers of the onion, and then things just start connecting. It's like, oh wait, all of this goes back to my childhood because when my at the time therapists start asking me, well, when's the first time you feel anxious, or when's the first time, like, and you start thinking like, dang, I've been anxious my my earliest memories, like 5, 6 years old. You know what I'm saying? Then you start piecing together, like, wait a minute, all of this is connected. That the show Manifest, everything is connected. Me having a not so amazing relationship with my mom, in my mind, this is an isolated thing. This doesn't mean anything. I just happen to be a girl who doesn't have a great relationship with their mother. And also, my mother she's the hero in most folks' stories. She is the go-to for a lot of people. She is a mother to so many people. So who am I talking to about her? This is their first lady, their god mama, their spiritual mama, you know what I'm saying? Their counselor, their spiritual advisor. So, okay, I just don't have that in common with them. All right,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? So it's like I didn't know that all of what I was experiencing emotionally, relationally, in my relationships, the men I was attracting and dating, I had no idea all of my behaviors were stemming from this woundedness, this childhood trauma. I had no idea. So now I'm like, let's deal with this then. Because
Yeah.
I'm very much a root cause kind of girl. No, let's not deal with these symptoms. Let's go straight to the root. Let's go straight to it and deal with this. So yeah, that's what it was for me. That was the moment. I don't know that it was one specific moment in therapy, but I do just know that like it was after I started going to therapy, and after each of those layers started coming off, it was again tracing right back to my mom.
You know what's interesting? Because again, I didn't necessarily have all of the language for it. And I think a lot of it is because of what you mentioned of the grandiose, the visible, like, and I remember college even exacerbated it because when I went to college and you see all of these other stories of mamas who was raggedy, and they weren't physically there, they weren't, mentally, spiritually, they were not there. And so I'm like, oh yeah, my mama is everything. And I appreciate her. And then also how she sacrificed for me, she provided for me. So I couldn't have thought that, this would be my story. And I think that was one of the first things I had to grieve
Yes,
is the idea of what this looks like or what this is or what this isn't, Because in my mind, she was the hero. I grew up like with a single mother. Now, my dad was very much active and present, but he was not in the home and he was not emotionally available at all. He was actually an alcoholic. And so he was not ever really emotionally available or even mentally at times. And so for me, I would choose to be with my mom who would show up to every event, every sports event I had. She's there, and she's the one putting clothes on my back and sacrificing and, making sure I have the things when I do go to college. She's making sure I have everything that I need. And so it was very, very difficult of the idea, right? It felt ungrateful
yes,
and it felt like you just are not seeing really the truer picture because when you talk to them, to the mothers, it's the best that I could, the best that I could. You didn't come with a manual, that whole thing.
that's a trigger for me. That manual. Oh, that
You didn't come with a manual.
yeah, miss me with that manual talk.
Right.
Because here's the thing about the manual thing that really triggers me. Because again, we don't come from moms who have a bad reputation, right? Like, we don't have raggedy mamas.
Mm-mm.
We
Mm-mm.
have servant mothers who
Yes.
show up for people,
Yes.
right?
In the community.
So, right? So for me, that I did the best I could. I didn't have a manual. It doesn't work for me because some kind of way you figured it out for everybody else. You figured it out. But for me specifically, you didn't. You did the best you could, but or I won't say that. You gave what you could, but I saw you give to them. I saw you be a safe place for them. I saw you hold their secrets and confidence. I saw how you didn't judge them. I saw. I was there. It happened. Where do we even go from here? Because the apologies is hard to receive when it's like you just like chose not to acknowledge. What are you even apologizing for if you want to acknowledge what happened? What you sorry for? You keep rejecting every single example I give you. You're like, that didn't happen. Well, what are you apologizing for then?
It's funny because in my case, the apology is there. The manual thing is there too, right? So it's like I apologize, right? And I do feel like it is sincere. It is with all that she has. Yet the behavior doesn't change. The expectation doesn't change. The way we interact doesn't change. And so that's what also then makes it difficult. I heard you apologize. I know it's sincere, yet here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Because the reason any of us strive to heal our inner child, deal with this, reconcile with our parents is because we want better relationships with them.
Yeah.
Like, we all have this longing that won't go away, for the approval of our parents, for acceptance from them, from what we inherently desired, maybe thought we deserved, whatever, right? That's why it matters in the first place. We want better relationships with them. So it's like, why have you just never asked, well, how can I be better for you? Why won't you just ask? Try. Because one thing I've noticed about, like, you talk about, going to college and being able to see, like, man, people live really, really, really differently. Like, I'm so grateful. But even in some of those situations when, maybe the mama done cussed the child out, I'm like, oh, Lord, my mama has never cursed me out. Or one thing I've noticed, though, is like, I've noticed how some people with extremely toxic and maybe even public relationships with their toxic moms, there's this thing where it's like, man, but she fighting with you, though. Like, y'all haven't figured it out yet, but she's in the ring with you. And it's something to be said about a mama who will at least get in the ring. I don't know what I'm doing with these gloves on, but we're gonna figure this out, right? It's really hard to fight for a relationship when she won't get in the ring with you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's like you really don't see a problem with your behavior, and I don't know what to do. No, I don't know what to do with that. All I can do is protect myself and have distance. And that was another thing for me that I started realizing, like, as especially once I got into adulthood, and I'm starting to see people have these like beautiful blossoming relationships with their mothers. They're calling each other all the time. They're like best friends. They do everything together. They travel together. And I'm like, I mean, we talk a couple times a week.
I want to advocate for those people. No, I'm just kidding. Not advocate, but I was there, right? I was there. A part of my journey in this, like I mentioned at the beginning, was it's been a pulling away ever since, right? And I did live in a space of cognitive dissonance for a long time, even after I acknowledged I had a mother wound, even after that. And it took, I don't even know the set of circumstances. I remember you and I talking, like, I don't know what made the light come on this time, but I got it. And it was just like, and it's been happening. God is so gentle, yet it was still so painful all at the same time, right? To acknowledge and confront that. Because if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, we have a, I mean, we have a good, especially if you know you're on the outer circle, right? And in public, yeah, of course, we have a good relationship. We talk. And then I remember one time you asking, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you talk? I'm like, we have a lot in common. You were like, oh, okay. And I was like, yes. I mean, we talk about sports, we talk about food, we talk about, there's a lot of things we have in common. And more recent therapist has actually shown me that you're still living out a trauma response. You're still living out what you want it to be versus seeing what it actually is. You're still not acknowledging basically the things that have happened are not something that you should have gone through. Like you never really had a childhood. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And even again, telling my story at the beginning, I'm like, oh, it's another layer, right? It's another point. You was a child. And I think a lot of times, we come out because you and I are similar where we feel like we had to perform for love, right? And you feel like you have to be perfect then for love. And that being a way to deserve it versus you just being and accepting the wholeness and the critical natures of our moms, and then that being a critical voice in our own head and how we treat our own selves. And so for me,
We,
it's been,
we gotta stop there, though. We have to speak. You can't just throw that out there. No, we have to talk about that.
let's do it.
Our mother's voice, our father's voice shapes our inner voice.
Mm,
We do the work to heal that and train ourselves to know what's the Lord, that is our inner voice. Our parents, that's our inner. And if you when you recognize that, and it's like at the forefront of your thoughts, you can hear it when people talk. You can like, oh, that's
Oh
your.
yeah.
You can hear it. Oh, you can hear it. I hear it in a lot of men when they talk, and it's like that's your daddy talking. That's your daddy talking to you. That's your daddy saying that you got to perform. It's
Yeah.
like so, like everything's a competition. You comparing everything. It's like, oh, you had to perform a lot, huh? You can hear it so clearly, and it's like, dang, people are out here so wounded. But yeah, your mother's voice is your inner voice. So imagine if we had, critical mothers. So what ends up happening, we criticize ourselves and everything else. Can find fault in anything. And I found myself being the same kind of person, like nothing was good enough. And it's like, well, where does that come from? And why does it matter? Why do you need things to be perfect? Well, because it got to be. Whoa, based on what? Right? And one thing I have to recognize, which and I was talking about this to my aunt recently. She was advocating for her sister, my mom. Like, I can see how, how she just wanted so badly to not have you feeling the way she felt as a child. And she began to explain how my mom felt based on my grandmother's actions, like how my grandmother made her feel like unwanted, unloved, all the things, right? Like she really tried so hard. And it's unfortunate that the very thing she tried to prevent from happening happened anyways. Which is just really sad. Like, let's take a moment for my mom. Like, that's just sad.
Yeah. The both of ours.
Very, very sad, to like set out on a mission and every step you take to accomplish the mission is actually like working against your favor and doing the exact opposite. This is why you gotta heal, folks. You gotta
What
heal.
you just said though, because of the voice that's in your head is actually your mother's, and if you don't
If
address that,
you don't address it, this is why like we always want to circumvent stuff and over spiritualize stuff. And if I just pray and ask the Lord to help me, maybe his help is gonna come through a therapist. Maybe his help is gonna come through you doing hard work and dealing with your stuff and your shadows and your inner like the Lord does not magically heal your trauma. He gives you resources and strategies and support and help and people along the way and friends to help you see your stuff.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So yeah, like I recognize that of course none of us have mother wounds just because we have mother wounds because our mothers have mother wounds. Like this is a generational thing, and somebody gotta say, all right, it stops with me.
that's
I'll do the hard work. I'm not responsible for my wounding, but I am responsible for my healing, and I am responsible for anything that comes from me. And for me, that includes my nieces and nephews too. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want their voice to be, man. There was this makes me emotional. There was something. I feel like every year, whoo, breathe in, breathe out. I have been an auntie since I was born. Like I have nieces and nephews that are like around my age, older than me, a little younger than me. So like I have a wide range of nieces and nephews. And even though we're closer in age, I've always had a level of influence. Let's just say that. And this year, the Lord reminded me of something I said to my niece when she was a kid. And by the way, I was also a kid, just a little bit older, right? And I was chastising her about something. And the Lord reminded me of it this year. And it was just like this blaring memory. And I said, you know what? She may not even remember this, but let me just reach out and apologize because that's not okay. Like I do not align with that thinking anymore at all and would be devastated if someone said to me in public what I said to her. So I'm reaching out just based on my own values, right? Like this is more so for me. Like I want to just make sure she understands I never want, if you have any voice in your head,
yeah.
I never want to be that voice. You know what I'm saying? So I reached out to her, apologized, and it was through text. Like, yeah, so you may not even remember this, but I described the day where we were, and I said, and I told her, I said, I just want to apologize because I never want, if I'm gonna be a voice in your head, I want it to align with this, not that, right? She remembered. She remembered the exact moment. She's like, "Oh, I remember, Auntie." She said, "But you know what I'm saying? It's like it ain't no big deal, whatever, whatever, right?" She grown. She a grown. So, but the fact she remembered proves my point. Like these things matter and they follow us.
They
So we
do.
have to deal with our stuff. We going around unhealed thinking this is just who I am, this is just my personality, this is just how God made me. That's a lie. This is trauma informed. Your person, if we have unhealed trauma, our personalities are trauma informed. They're trauma shaped. If we have unhealed woundedness and we're parents, we're going to parent and give off woundedness. Like this is not rocket science. It's very simple math. One plus one equals two. That's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like I do hold space for my mom and the sadness that she may carry having her daughter say, the things that I've shared with her. But also it's like we got time though. We still have time.
Yeah,
Figure this out.
we can figure it out. It's funny though. There's a few things that come to mind. One is when you talked about the trauma response and some of the ways that we had. I know a couple years ago, one of the things that I realized was the perfectionism and the self criticalness of it all and the lack of grace of it all that I would give myself, and realizing that it's a trauma response and just relearning, right? And unlearning and then relearning a healthier habit, a better way, a higher performing way, actually, because of just the lack of productivity that you have in general. If you know me, then you know that I try to be just a high performer in general, a high achiever in general. But now I just want to do that from a healthy place, right? Not from I need to do this so that someone else can say good job, or I need to do this so that I can be or feel seen. And I didn't even know that's why I was doing it, right? So it's like, yes, I'm a high achiever, always have been, but now I could do it from a healthy place and not from a place that was coming and rooted in trauma
And fear.
and
Because
fear.
there's this idea, and we've talked about this a lot, which could be another episode, but it's like how we see the greatest, right? The greats, the goats, the Beyonces, the Kobe's, the MJs, that's Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, you know what I'm saying, whoever, right? All the Michaels. You think about these kind of people and just people who are high performers, and typically there is some like extreme trauma they've experienced, right? And like, oh, there is no Michael Jackson without a traumatic Joe Jackson, right? Or there is no, right? You hear those stories, and while there's room for that conversation, there is a place where you get to perform at a high level, where you get to be extremely successful because you are working from a place of success, abundance, and love, not fear. Because the thing with my upbringing, I know my mom loves me, but
Yeah.
I was raised in fear, right? I was raised from a place of fear. Her wanting to protect me wasn't out of abundant thinking or a place of love. It was out of fear, right? It was, you cannot, you will not, you shall not, because I'm afraid, right? And it's like, okay, cool. I recognize that, you got it. You are my protector. I recognize that. But when it's all out of fear, you have to deal with that, especially when we are believers. Like like because we're not without help. We have the cheat code in all things. We have the Father,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like we do get to perform at a high level. We do get to do things well and with excellence without it being attached to performing for, right? We live from a place of
Yeah.
acceptance, not for acceptance, right?
That's
We perform from a place of love, not for love.
that's
And that's the difference. It makes all the difference. And the perfectionism thing is so crazy because it's a cycle of like you said, like unproductivity, because for me how it has shown up was, well, if I'm not gonna be perfect at it, I just won't do it. It's because
it's
there's so many things that I want to experience in this life that I've held myself back from because I won't be. And people have, over the years complimented me on so many things, right? Like, oh man, like how you done this and how you did that. And for me, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, I did this wrong. I messed up on this. And meanwhile, they're like, you're the blueprint. You're the standard. How did you start doing it? And I'm like, y'all, I've been messing up and I'm just so hard on myself. But it's like, girl, it's because you don't let yourself just do stuff. It
Yeah,
has to be perfect or nothing. And there's so much life in between.
so much life.
There's so
And
much
people
life.
don't even see the things that you see or care
My
about
God.
the things you care about. Or if you saw someone else do that, the grace that you extend or how you overlook that because the overall message is fine anyway. And so you're stuck, but you're applauding someone else's you're applauding someone else's vulnerability.
And it's because of the messaging, because there's a deep rooted belief that I am not good. I
Yeah.
am not adequate. Forget the work that I'm doing. I can see them and see their mistakes and give them grace because they're fine. But there's a deep rooted belief that I'm not good enough. So I have to overcompensate, right? And hopefully the works that I do will level out my inadequacies. And if not, that shame comes right back up, that guilt comes right back up. And this is why I had to go on my journey, because I'm like, this is exhausting. Like, I said this to somebody, we were together over Christmas. It's like, I want to be a safe space for me. Being that, like, yes, I want to be a safe space for my friends, my family, and people that I come into contact with. But I live with me 24/7. I want to be safe for me, and the constant spiral of shame and guilt and fear, and I gotta do more, I gotta be more for who and for why.
And for why? You sent me this post, or I saw it somewhere on Instagram where a mother or someone recorded a mother affirming their adult son.
Mm,
Was saying they were riding in the car and he was saying how something didn't happen, and she goes, well, that's okay, well, at least you tried. I mean, so many people don't even try. And it almost makes me teary because it was like she said, imagine hearing this all of your life. Imagine that being the voice in your head all of your life. And then, like, when you can't find it, to have someone to be like, well, at least, well, you did a good job. Well, I thought that was amazing. And not only that, but I really believe that you can do it. And I believe the next time it's going to be even better because of what you just learned this time. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Let me say this though, and I think that is why God does supplement our lives with what we,
man, that's it.
because you even opened up this and said, like, I'm that person for you, and you're definitely that person for me, where I can share my wins raw, right? And not only that, you make me celebrate the wins, right? No, we're going to celebrate. And even if I don't even, I'm like, it's not really that big of a deal. No, it's a big deal. And I do that to you too, because you will downplay something. I'm like, no, 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 that's a big deal. And so I just love how God has supplemented that. But then also, to like make us aware of the voice in the head, and to we're now empowered because we are aware of it, to know I didn't have that voice that says it's okay, you could do it next time. Once that default moment happens of like, now I can train myself to be like, but that's okay, you can do it.
That's what it is. It's like, I'm gonna mess up, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna stick to it because I won't go back to that. I can't let that remain my default. And you talking about the supplement, how the Lord has supplemented our lives, is
Yeah,
so critical, because it's a major part of grieving is getting to a place of, she is who she is. I get to accept that. I get to experience her where she is, to love her where she is, and to accept the love that the Lord has given me through all these other people.
yeah,
Because so much of what we do, and I see it so much, is tend to do to others what our moms did to us. We reject, right? Because we're waiting for it to come from her. We're holding on to unforgiveness and offense and all kinds of stuff, because it's like, why won't you love me the way I need you to? Why won't you give it to me? You're my mother. And it's like, no, the Lord is saying, hey, I know you needed this, so I'm gonna give it to you over here. I
that's right.
can't make her do what you want her to do, but I can provide for you in this way. And it's like, thank you for the compliments, thank you for this, but and we don't know we're doing it. We put up all these walls, because it's just like there's this longing again. Our inner child is like looking for it from her. But that grief says a proper grieving period will allow you to come into acceptance of who she is.
That part.
And still remain on to hope of who she could be, but acceptance of who she is and how to love and honor her in that way and receive the love and all of that other stuff, the acceptance, the unconditional love from who else is around you. Because that's how I experienced unconditional love for the first time. Like, oh snap, I can relax. Thank you, Jesus. And that in itself is so healing. Oh my God, I found so much healing and friendship.
Yes,
Good
yes.
God, like I did things I didn't know was possible. Things I possibly hoped for within siblings. It's like, well, I didn't get it there either. All right. But it's here and I would hope that that's what's received, that people listen to this and are like, all right, cool. That sucks. It's unfair. It's disappointing. And I get to experience the things that my heart has longed for. It just may not come in the package I wanted it. It may come in the form of a friend or a partner, and that's okay.
And I want to emphasize that it is okay because honestly, I think some of it is a part of God's design, to be honest. Because if that is what we've experienced, because God can do anything, right? He
Yeah,
could change that, right? He could.
yeah,
But I believe that he chooses to allow us to experience it in a different way and to be accepting of that because it teaches us something as well, right? Because now there's something innate in us that wants to make someone do it the way we need you to do it. But it's like, I won't do that to her. Ultimately, I create the opportunity,
yes,
and by the opportunity, that's having the conversations, that's opening up, being vulnerable, that's expressing my needs and not shutting down or not just adjusting. And then I move on, right? But then being strong enough and accepting and open enough at the same time to those that want to give it in the way that
yes,
I receive it. But then also, what you said is important too, because ultimately, I know nothing comes out of becoming bitter. Nothing good, nothing beautiful can come out of a bitter heart or an unforgiving heart. So it was so important to me to keep my heart straight and to make sure that I forgive and I see what you mentioned, the girl
yeah,
in my mother, right? The woman who never received the love that she deserved, right? And I'm that I hold space and I'm sad for her in that way as well. And I could hold that along with what I need
yes. It's both
all at the
one,
same time.
all at the same time. The Lord dealt with me about that. The piece you talked about in regards to like, this is something that the Lord allowed. It's what you said, and in addition to that, it's also the Lord reminding us nobody on earth will be able to do for us what the Lord can do. We are never supposed to. It was never God's intent for us to expect so much from one person. Like there's no one person
Mhm.
that can meet every need. That is the Lord.
That
Because
is the Lord.
ultimately, what will end up happening is if they do, they become our God. They
Mhm.
become our Lord. They
Yeah.
become our source. And while yes, parents, especially in younger ages, while yes they are to provide and to guide and to teach, sure we are going to have deficiencies. The key of course is to be aware of those and to support of course, but we're going to have deficiencies. And I believe the Lord, to your point, has allowed that to one, point us back to him, and
Yeah.
also to for the Lord to show us that He can provide for us in so many ways, and to provide to us people who have capacity, because our moms just didn't have the capacity.
No.
They didn't
They
have
did.
the capacity, and it is unfair of any of us to ask and demand something from someone they don't have to give.
That's it. That's it.
It's unfair. And to a degree, offensive and disregarding. Because it's like, I told you I ain't got it. And
Okay.
you're punishing me for not giving you something I don't have to give. I can't speak to why she didn't have it to give. I'm just talking about what the facts are, right? And that's where the grace and empathy comes from for me, from my mom. It's just like, dang, that's sad,
Yeah.
sad, because someone neglected you and someone dropped you along the way.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, I release you from that. I don't need, I don't need that from you. And it's not a nasty. I don't need that from you. No, it's not that. I genuinely release you from that responsibility because I accept who you are. I forgive you. I'll keep forgiving you.
Yes. We didn't even talk about the keep forgiving part.
Because they don't be changing. So you don't have to keep forgiving. You know, it ain't a one time thing, y'all. We gotta keep forgiving.
I keep
You know?
forgiving.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna honor you, respect you, love you, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Because I am who I am because of you. The good and the bad. This anxiety rooted in you, but also, like the most amazing parts of me are from you too. I don't get to call you out, you know what I'm saying, on the woundedness and not appreciate you for all that you've made me to be. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I can do all those things and release you from that responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you don't have it to give. And it would just be rude of me to keep asking that of you.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing with that, and then I can also now accept the way that you do want to give me the love. So I
Yes.
don't miss out on the sweet, tender moments
Yes,
you have,
girl.
because it wasn't all bad, right? Because it wasn't all like we said, we didn't have the story, the tragic story. Our moms are very present. Our moms love us.
Yes,
They really do want to be there for us. And I can now, because I'm not bitter, right? Because I'm not fighting
yes,
and trying to make you be something you're not. Now I can also receive the love that you do have to give in such a generous way.
girl, absolutely. Because for so long I was fighting, like, love me the way I need to be loved. And it's like, she don't know how. Let me just take a step back. How does she show love? All right, you know what? Let me lean into this. Cause what I ended up doing, I started rejecting her love. It's like, you're not love. And it's just, so now it's just like this. It's just tension. It's just a bunch of foolishness. And I don't get to say who goes first. I'm aware of this woundedness. I'm healing. And one beautiful thing about this is, even though I would appreciate and love if our parents did the work, found themselves there, I would appreciate that. The truth is, they get the overflow of our healing, and whether they ever tell us or not, they are benefiting from our inner child healing work. They are. And I also don't get to be jealous of those who benefit from that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. However you get it, I'm grateful. So yeah, that's been a game changer, is to stop long enough to stop being upset that she doesn't love me the way I need to be loved, that I can appreciate the ways that she does show love. And that has been so freeing and very helpful for our relationship, because it's like, boom, all right. These are the bounds of our relationship. This works. And it has allowed me to enjoy all the things that we have in common. Cause the way I be like, oh, I am my mama's child. Oh my God. It's like I can't escape it. Like, it just happens. Like, I am my mama's child for real.
When it comes out, I'll be like, ooh, I love it. It's so cute. You're like, I'm gonna host. I'm like, you want to host? Okay. Oh, you want to cook for everybody? Okay. It sounds like somebody else I know.
Man, I was about the same thing I be fussing at her about. I be doing the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
The same
Yeah.
thing. Get a flight ticket somewhere? No, I'm gonna spend hundreds on Christmas decor and food and cups and plates to feed people, and we're gonna have fun and play games. That's what I want to do with my money.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Like, my mom was always like, I just want to do more. I want to go somewhere. Well, you could, but you always feed in the 500, the 5,000. And here I am. Like everyone.
We love it, and we love it. We love it. Well, I hope this conversation was helpful. I think really what I wanted to make sure we highlighted was not only our journey, but helping you to see that it doesn't have to be this dramatic thing. And if you are dealing with this too, Allison does have a platform where she teaches and talks about and talks people through mother wound healing, but then also see the redemption in our stories and see the love in our stories and see even the friendship and how we've navigated that and been able to lean on each other through our stories. Anything else you want to say, friend?
Just to be encouraged, to stay committed to the journey, to stay committed because it's not linear. There is no destination. We're just in it for the long haul.
For the long haul, and I'm in it with you, friend. And just remember that a sweet friendship refreshes the soul. Have a good day, everyone.